be at variance with whatever would have been observed during the course of medical examination. Dual loyalty continues to be a challenge amongst other practitioners, where those who are in positions would tend to ignore the independence that the medical practitioners have to display in the course of their work. They may want to obtain a report which they should not be getting, so that they can prepare whatever case. Perhaps there is particularly, you may find that in state institutions, particularly hospitals, maybe there is a litigation that's going on. Because this report is compiled within the Department of Health, some think then it's their property, therefore they should have unfettered access to such. Then it becomes the responsibility of us as practitioners to educate those who do not know and remind those who pretend not to know that they do not have the right to obtain such documents, and guide them properly if they insist where such documents can be obtained. I've just been alerted that I need to wrap up. So fortunately, I'm just going to take about 5 minutes or less as we highlighted some of the cases that we have experienced here in South Africa and what has got us to this colloquium and many other activities that occur. The reopening of Inkosi Albert Luthuli inquest was a pivotal moment in our history. It's also important to acknowledge that such moment was preceded by the very first apartheid era related death, where the inquest was reopened, where the phrase, which was quite used commonly, particularly by the security forces, the special branch which was involved there, that Indians cannot fly. That's the story of Ahmed Timol, because it was said that he had jumped off from, I can't remember the floor, the building, and so he couldn't fly. That's why his death had come about. The Timol Kaji family, they insisted over many years for this inquest to be reopened. And it's the first, when it was opened and concluded around 2017, where the ruling was found. Two doctors who were part of this process, Professor Steve Naidu and Dr. Shakira Hamol, Holland. They had found that Timol, he had injuries which were compatible with a fall from a height. Looking at the document and historical records, it was also evident that he had a lot of injuries which he had sustained during life, which would not have been sustained as a consequence of a fall. So both doctors had agreed, working separately, that indeed he had a lot of injuries which were compatible with an assault. And that's how this case was then, the ruling was found that Ahmed Timol was killed by the forces at the time. The case of Steve Biko is also related to that. Now, as much as there are medical practitioners who had colluded quite a lot with the security forces, there is a name that has not come and it's a pathologist who had shown to be on the correct side of history in the Timol case, in the Biko case, and many other cases of persons who have not made headlines. And that pathologist is Dr. Gluckman, who had participated, usually represented families. And when he carried that task, in most instances, he would find a version that is in contrast with what the authorities or the state doctors would be pronouncing on. And when such information or records had been looked at objectively, his findings have always been authorized through peer review. So as much as we talk about those who did not play ball correctly, his name has not been mentioned um, quite sufficiently, and yet he played a very critical role. He needs to be acknowledged. Inkosi Luthuli, the story, yes, was hit by the goods train. When we then look at the records under the leadership of the National Prosecuting Team, Advocate Dunyo, from the pathology perspective, there were injuries which were noted. They were not quite in keeping with that of a goods train. The body was relatively in a good state. With the goods train, you'd expect the body to be mangled, to be crushed. It was not in this instance. One of the key determinants, which is quite basic, and we tend to overlook it at it within the profession, because it's one of the basics, but usually you go through it as you tick the box. When we looked at the postmortem report, amongst the many injuries that we observed, Inkosi Luthuli had injuries on the back of his hands, so the dorsal aspect. And here the fracture, somewhere here on the left ulnar, there is a bone here. That injury alone suggested to us that he was being assaulted and trying to protect his face. That's how such injuries were then found. And through the evidence, it was clear that the three doctors who were part just before his demise and the one who did the postmortem examination, Dr. Gregerson, Van Zyl, and Mr. Yube, the neurosurgeon, they did not conduct themselves at a level that was expected of their expertise. More to say that Inkosi Luthuli was kept at Istenga Hospital, which was not resourced at all for specialized care, particularly for neurosurgery patients. Now, Stenga is about 45 minutes at most, you'll say 1 hour from Durban, depending on traffic. They kept him there for about 3 hours. A neurosurgeon had to leave Durban to go to Stenga Hospital. Now, it's as good as a
Yeah, I'm not sure if. Is there another hand? Okay, let's go with you, Mr. Clavin. We'll see.
Thank you, Program Director. I just wanted to ask you, Dr. Nzele, because he made some statements and some questions, which, anyway, he speaks about dual loyalty and also the autonomy of pathologists being challenged and all of that. Now, I can understand that before 1994, I mean, are we post 94? Is it still the same situation in South Africa? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, no more questions. So over to you. Where? Oh, okay. Sorry, these pillars. I'm sorry, I can see you. Thank you, Reverend Heidi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Um, this case in general, how of because now families have to deal with reburying
Consequences have been taken against such practitioners. Some of the cases will go unnoticed, will not hear about them. And at times, if or when you do, it would be many years down the line. So I can say if such conduct continues to occur, it's certainly extremely minimal compared to what it had been. Doctors are conscientized. They are conducting themselves in a manner that which is expected. Suffice to say, as we would know, in every sector, human beings are not homogeneous. The second question, there are measures which are in place. Because remember, when the person is in the morgue, in most instances, none of the persons in the morgue know that individual. So when the family comes, identify, they provide the necessary documentation that is required of them. The family member is the one who makes the error. So those in the morgue, they cannot cross-check or dispute that. In some instances, it occurred, a family will send an uncle or an aunt, matriarch in that family, but they have not seen the deceased for many years. So to the morgue, the image of the deceased that they have is no longer that will appear. So amongst other things, when they do the identification, the families are urged to indicate that at times identification, but there's a lot of fraudulent activities that occur. Let's later found it's still being investigated by police. However, what occurred at the time clearly showed that it was a fraudulent activity. So they had identified, when the body is not known, you come with police to identify. So they came with the investigating officer. Everything was done properly. As they were just about to leave, they were waiting for paperwork. Another family came, and coincidentally, police, the investigator, realized that they're being called because this family, that these ones left the facility, and it turned out that was fraudulent identification. The real family is the family that came afterwards. So one of them is people have to come with police, and also the body does not get released from the morgue without express permission, written permission from the investigating officer, that they have satisfied themselves that indeed the person who claims that the deceased is theirs, then such should be released. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew. Thank you so much, Dr. Nzele. What does one even say to that? The society that we have become, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, Dr. Nzele, you'll be happy to know that we actually have Abantu Basenyukasel, a Blaubosch, who are actually with us and watching live. Ubab Gambu, Amajuba district in the Department of Education. We work closely with them as the chair in the Luthuli Museum. So they are actually here at the event with us remotely. So it's so good that all these connections and the histories, all come together. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to have one more item before we break for a brief comfort break. I'm going to ask Ms. Lesejo Linda Plank, who is a researcher at the Chief Albert Luthuli Research Chair, to come and offer us some creative input. Let's give her a round of applause.
Molweni, dumelang. I know it's a day and a heavy session. I stand on the protocol that has been observed. As indicated by Professor Khalo, my name is Lesakhalinda Plank. I am going to be offering my rendition. Those who know me or have seen me perform or render, I always make this disclaimer, two disclaimers. One, I don't perform poetry as a form of entertainment. I don't perform poetry as a form of entertainment. However, it is a methodological, theoretical output or a work of the art. And two, I said this the other time when I was singing one of the hymns Xaba Luthuli that he liked, that ngiyibhimbi, but I love singing. And in my next life, I wish I could do that. And please do assist the spirit of Ubaba Luthuli. Tina sizwe, sikhale izwe elathathwa ngaba mabawuyeke kumhlaba awumabawuyeke bambulele. They killed him. They killed him. They killed Inkosi uLuthuli baqamba amanga mebaceda bakhohlisana bodwa. Kodwa ngoba iqala aliboli iqiniso liphumile. Bambulele. In the inquest of 59 years ago, they ruled that Inkosi Luthuli was walking on a railway line when he was struck by a train and died after fracturing his skull. Bambulele. They forgot to mention that part. They tortured him, they called him names, kicking his body. They fractured his skull, laughing at how tired he was, how they had premeditated his demise. They laughed at him and lied and blamed it on the train, istimela. An accident, they said, suggesting suicide, hypothetically. Trying to paint a picture, no, bambulele. They killed an innocent family man, indodana yakwaLuthuli, uMadlanduna oluthuli lwezinkomo, a husband to uMabhengu, intombi ezalwa ngoNgcolosi oDlabazane. He was a father to uSulenkosi, uNomathuli, uThandeka, uSimangele, uThembekile, uMadunjini and uSibusiso. He was umkhulu, uMalomo, ubabomncane, ubabomkhulu, uSibali to Ongwane. He was Inkosi, umfundisi, uthisha, umholi, owayehola abantu, kodwa that did not change. Bambulala. Bambulele. They killed him, the primacy to prevail and to be the order of our lives, and they had the audacity to say the train killed him. Choo-choo, istimela. Ishamba ngamalahle. How many of the Luthulis are there? Cases that when called like their bodies, distorted reasoning, distorted evidence. Some of the witnesses were made to hide or some were permanently silenced, assassinated. With no evidence to show how they died or if they are dead. Oh, may their blood arise. May their soul ligas labo. May they uphold the truth, so that the injustices of some of the commissions that were instructed to bring truth and reconciliation bekukudlulisa njena. Kodwa amakhehla namakhehlakazi abadluli nje bona. They are not fleeting, abakhohlwa futhi. They pass on to a world where they fight for justice, for love, for the truth, no matter how long it may take and how hard it may be. To arise and be brave, to listen and to rule over cases caused by perpetrators, land stealers, who called those murders as amaphutha, an accident, while it was murder. Inkosi Luthuli died so many times, even when he was alive, until his final death. When he was detained to be tamed because of his quest for peace, for the liberation of Abantu Abansundu. Kodwa he got banned, arrested in his house for wanting what is right, stripped of his accolades, of his leadership positions, and branded as a disruptive man. Bathatha okuningi kuthina, nathi sathula ngoba bathe sithule. Even to this day, our pseudo democracy siyafa siyalamba sinamacala asinawo umhlaba sibulalana sodwa. Because of the effects of colonialism and apartheid in the current state we are in. The innocent blood that was shed on the African soil, bearing the cross of the liberation, the cross of Abantu Abansundu without accountability. Bambulele, Inkosi umvumbi. And wanted to blame istimela esihamba ngamalahle. Imagine umbiko ofike enini waLuthuli that he's no more. They all shook their heads and disputed that he died by accident. Imagine how uMabhengu felt having to sit ematrasini as that her husband had been murdered, but she had to accept that it was an accident. Kanjani? Imagine uMabhengu telling her children's children that umyeni wakhe died by accident ngenxa yesitimela. I ask, what is accidental with this death? When apartheid judges, perpetrators of violence, when apartheid police, when the train driver, when apartheid doctors, apartheid pathologists colluded and concluded to hide the truth. Imagine Msamo, the candlelight being lit, but the truth is not told. Imagine how he, Ubaba Luthuli, Inkosi umvumbi, felt when he entered the gates Lamatongo, and the apartheid government lied about his death. Imagine the soothing of his soul that needed to be done by ukhokho no guys. Lisimpe ukuthi abe yivumba elimnandi uvumbi. Saying to him, kunelanga iqiniso longed for, they knew, we pray for others. They killed him. Thina sizwe, esi. Sikhalela izwe elathathwa ngaba mabawuyeke awumabawuyeke Inkosi.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 20 to 12. I'm going to ask that we take a body break for 10 minutes. There is still tea and coffee and some refreshments. You can take and come back to your table, get to know people on your table. If you need to use the restroom, you just walk out of the venue all the way to the end of the corridor and to your right. The restrooms are there. We shall reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want the speaker. You see now, I'm just thinking, oh, lovely to finally meet you in person. Good, good. I've been here since morning. Oh, okay. But we should go and the ladies is yeah, but if you feel that you can dance. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask that we please settle down so we can start? Let us please take our seats, ladies and gentlemen, so that we can continue. As we try to catch up with time, which is impossible, but we try. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with our deliberations for the day, it is now my pleasure to invite the NPA team. And just to say a little bit, the NPA Pietermaritzburg legal team, this is the team that is going to be sharing some reflections with us today. They were involved in the reopened inquest into the 21st July 1967 death of Ubaba Albert Luthuli. And the NPA team legal team, or the NPA legal team, forms part of the TRC unit as well. And this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, because even with the previous speakers, the TRC has been mentioned quite a number of times. So you will get to hear that it's actually an ongoing process. The TRC processes have not ended or have been concluded. And so the NPA team that has been working on Ubaba Luthuli's inquest case are also working on the TRC. So when we're thinking about truth and justice, all of these are interconnected. So we have they are located within the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in KwaZulu-Natal, led by Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Ncedile Dunywa, Advocates Anna Chweni, Xolani Msimango, and Siyabonga Ngcobo, who are all senior state advocates in the TRC unit. The unit has extensive experience in the prosecution of criminal matters, and they focus on the investigation and prosecution of apartheid-era crimes, including the use of inquests to advance accountability and the rule of law. And to represent the team this morning, we have Ome Advocate Anna Chweni, who is going to come and offer remarks, after which I will invite the whole team so that in our engagement, the whole team. Let's please welcome Anna Chweni.
I hope I'm audible. Program Director, Professor Puleng Sakalo, the Luthuli Museum Director, the team, Executive Dean of Human Sciences, UNISA, Professor Inkosi, members of academia, the Luthuli family, members of the judiciary, representatives of the National Prosecuting Authority, Ms. Bulelwa KwaZulu-Natal, Advocate Ncedile Dunywa, representatives of the Directorate of